welcome back to the Rave Social Podcast. I'm your host, Jaiden, and today we have a very special guest, April Benincosa. She is so awesome. She's a coach. She's a friend. She's literally just an incredible person. I love her so much. And she's going to talk a little bit about money mindset today. But before we get into that, April, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Okay, well, I do a lot of things like most women and entrepreneurs. So I own 5 businesses. I was in the beauty industry for 24 years. And what I really noticed with the beauty industry is a deep sense of unworthiness with clients that sat in my chair. And I ended up kind of really coaching, like getting into it myself, of finding my own unworthiness. And so signing up for all these programs, doing all these certifications kind of for myself, and then sharing that with my clients and realizing I had a much bigger purpose than one person at a time in my chair. So then I started becoming a coach, and I coach on worthiness, self-love, embodiment, and just really like your mindset and overcoming those limiting beliefs and stories that you choose to believe.
Yeah, that's literally amazing. And that is what you do. And you do so many different things, but you're amazing at all of them. So I don't know how you do it.
I'm a generator, so I have lots of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Awesome. Well, I want to talk a little bit about money mindset. So why don't you tell us a little bit about like what is money mindset and like how do you get a good money mindset?
Yeah, I think for me, I look at money mindset a lot differently than most people. I really look at it from a spiritual lens. And, we live in a really capitalistic culture that is an unhealthy power dynamic of whoever has the most control has the most power is what a lot of people choose to buy into.
Yeah.
But once you realize money is just energy, it's a frequency. And then what's the purpose of having that and wanting that and realizing that you are abundance and that you create abundance and being in that vibration of abundance, and being grateful for what you already have instead of always coming from a place of lack. So most people wake up with scarcity of, I didn't get enough sleep. At the end of the night, they go to bed. I didn't get enough done. So they're always constantly in this place of scarcity, but it's just a story that they've chose to believe. And the beautiful thing about the mind is once you take over the driver's seat, you can drive it wherever you want to realize that there's abundance all around.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much because money is a frequency. And I feel like we do live in a state of lack. Like a lot of people do, just because like, especially with social media, you can just see what everyone else has, what everyone else is doing, what they say they have,
Yes, what they perceive to have.
Yeah, and so it's just so easy to feel like you don't have enough, you're not doing enough, you'll never be enough, all of that. And I feel like that all falls in line with money mindset.
Absolutely.
But okay, so if money is a frequency, what are like some steps that you would give someone to take so that they can call in more abundance what about that?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest place that most people could start is developing your own sense of worthiness. So if you, especially in the creative space and the spiritual industry, a lot of people have a hard time charging for what they're worth. And so they want to charge, like, I want to charge what I'm worth. But they don't actually have an inherent sense of value of their own worth, of what they have to offer the world.
Oh.
And especially if they are in the comparison game. So a quote I always love by Mark Twain is, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
So, on Instagram, they actually have, it was a while ago, but they have accounts that where you can get fake vacation pictures taken.
What?
And so they like fake create these like luxury travel that you're going on, or someone will buy a whole, like, Darcy does, my sister Darcy's a high-end wedding photographer, and like a lot of people will like buy a whole bunch of high-end shoes and jewelry and stuff and then just return it the next day. So it's like, it's just an understanding of like what's real.
Yeah.
And then what's real for you, what's your inherent value. And I think we live in a world that has a really poor definition of success. Success meaning I have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And abundance. So I know we're talking about money mindset, but I would say it's more of an abundance mindset of realizing that like abundance is everywhere, and the best place to find abundance is in nature. So
okay.
like when I'm feeling like I'm in lack, I will go on a walk in nature and be like, look at all these trees. Look at all these blades of grass. Look at that tree with all those acorns. Look at all these birds. Like look at all this oxygen that we get to breathe, and look at all this freedom that we get to have living in the United States, living in Utah, a super safe community. It's very fortunate, right?
Yeah.
So you can either be in an abundant a mindset or frequency of lack or of abundance.
Yeah.
And it's a choice of when you're in lack, what are you thinking? So a lot of it's just bringing awareness to the thoughts that you're choosing to believe.
Yeah.
So everything is a story that like that you tell yourself, right? So we've all chose to buy into the story. I won't say we all, but 90-something% of the planet like chooses to believe, to buy into the story of I need to have a lot of money,
mm-hmm.
and then I'm going to have it made. And instead of looking at it from a place of like Tony, I used to be a big Tony Robbins fan. I'm definitely too much in my feminine now that it doesn't necessarily resonate as much, but it was a really good foundation for me in my 20s. And one thing that he always said is instead of learning, that all of those tools, like what about learning the art of fulfillment? And I think abundance, if you can just change the definition to like having what you need when you need it, that would be abundance. Because a lot of people in the world don't have that.
That's what I was going to ask. So like, how do you balance that for like, I want to make like a certain amount of money because that money would allow me to, live in a house that I want to live in, drive the car I want to drive, go see my family, take time off, whatever it is. Like there's a dollar amount I want to make. How do you have a goal of something you want to achieve and also not be in that like desperate energy or that like I need this or like how do you balance those things, like wanting more in life and not being like greedy or whatever?
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's just really watching your language. Like if you think that you're being greedy because you want all of those things, then there's a story underneath that you're choosing to buy into, which is not helpful.
Yeah.
So like there's already a story about money that like having these things makes you greedy. And why do you want those things?
Yeah.
So like a lot, like my experience, my story was the reason I have all of these businesses and did all of these things is because I didn't have a strong sense of value and self-worth. And so I thought if I just make this much money, then I'm going to be worthy of love.
Oh, okay.
And then when you reach that number, it wasn't actually any of that, right? It was still the root cause hadn't been fixed. So then there comes the next business or the next thing. And, I've been really blessed to be in some really amazing rooms with entrepreneurs. I was part of an organization called Entrepreneur Organization for a long time. And you have to have a business worth $1 million to even be in it. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to get in this room and like all these people have life figured out. And then that's not really what I had found. There's a few people who really have learned the art of fulfillment, but I would say most of them were still
like looking for the next
in the masculine energy of like doing.
Yeah. And it seems like once you hit those things, like I remember like when I wanted to have my first 10K month. And I was like, when I have my first 10K month, like, cause everyone talks about that. Everyone, like, it's everywhere on social media. And I was like, when I have that month, like, that's going to be like it. Like, I know I'll want more probably, but like, that's going to be so satisfying. And then I hit that and I was like, it literally didn't change anything for me. Like, and part of that's because I didn't change what I pay myself, and your business making 10K and you making 10K is a big difference. But part of it was that, but part of it was like, I hit that number and I was like, okay, like, I don't really know, like, what is the big deal here? And then I feel like I had that thing where it's just like, okay, now I want to get like a 50K month. And it's like, when does it end? Like, do you just keep wanting more?
Yeah. I mean, that's the mindset of scarcity is you always want more.
Yeah.
And the reason that you're doing it is like, not coming from a place of service or like the people that I found that are really, really successful, that have a beautiful life, that have abundance in lots of areas. They have an abundance of relationships. They have an abundance of health. That's like one area I'm really working on this year is like having that abundance of health and energy. And and doing it from it's really just from a different place of being instead of doing. So we have masculine energy and we have feminine energy.
Yeah.
The masculine energy is the doing, the discipline, the goal setting, right? And then the feminine is the allowing, the flow, and like leaving room for some magic to come in, this unexpected, and like, what's the purpose? So instead of having a goal, it would be better to have a vision for your life of how you want to feel in that vision. So instead of having a 10K month, like I really deeply love helping 40-year-olds who don't have any clue about social media, but they have a really strong, powerful message. And my purpose is to help those people be seen in the world. That's very different than I want to make 10K.
Yeah, and I feel like you just saying that like makes so much sense because like every year I do a vision board for myself, and the vision board I do rarely has like a dollar amount on it. I mean, sometimes I have done that, but it's more of a feeling. It's like I want to feel free. I want to feel happy. Like I want time. I want my relationships to be good. Like it's more like that than it is about like the dollar amount. And so I'm not so fixated on like the hard goal. I'm more fixated on like the feeling. And I do feel like that allows me to have more abundance. Cause like, I don't know what this is going to look like exactly, but I know how it's going to feel.
Yeah. And also having clarity, like, so like what I heard you say is that you want to have freedom.
Yeah.
And that you want to have better relationships, right? Like all of that could be available right now in this moment. Like you can feel free right now. So the question to ask yourself is like, how can I feel free right now? What does freedom feel like for me? And then having more clarity around your goals. Like I want to make 10K while having freedom, while working this many days a week, like getting really, really clear. Like the universe loves clarity. And so a lot of people know what they don't want, but they're not super clear on what they do want. So they just, because so many people are selling programs of like, be a 6-figure stylist, be a 6-figure this, be a 6-figure this. It's like, but why and how and what does that look like? So I want, because you can make 6 figures. I made 6 figures doing hair, but I was working like 50 hours a week.
Like that's not good. Yeah.
Like I hit my goal, but I didn't have like, because I missed the purpose and the vision of like, oh, I want to make 6 figures working 3 days a week, doing this, serving people I love, doing what I love, what I'm passionate about, what's really in alignment for me.
Yeah.
And then that feels very different. So there's a lot of the feeling and then the doing. What was it? Frank Sinatra, like there's this quote that's like, you can't just be all the time. You don't want to do all the time, but it's a dance between do. So like, I'm going to be, and then I'm going to do, and I'm going to be, and then I'm going to do. And like, you kind of find that balance of that dance of like bringing those two together to be centered. So you're not like only doing, and that creates like, that's the hustle culture that a lot of people are actually getting out of.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen a lot of that narrative change.
Yeah.
But also you can't just sit around and meditate and attract everything to come to you. Like there has to be inspired action after.
Inspired action. Okay. I love that so much because I'm like caught up. I see both people and like I am like a hustler in the way that like I will work hard for what it is that I want. But I'm also like pretty good at manifesting. Like if I say I want something, I'm pretty good at getting that, whatever it is that I want. Yeah. But I see people that are like, I'm manifesting this. And I'm like, but what steps are you taking? Like, you can't just be like, I want this. And then like sit on the couch. It's like, you have to take like steps, like aligned steps towards that. And like the universe is going to help you and guide you and give you what you need to get there.
Yeah.
But you can't just be like, I'm lucky. I'm going to sit here and do nothing.
Yeah. I mean, if you believe that you're lucky, though, so like it's also too, so I'm trained in neuro-linguistic programming, which is your words, and your words will tell you what your unconscious beliefs say.
Yeah.
So from 0 to 7, you're like a sponge and you just soak up everything. So whatever your parents had, their thoughts about money, what are those money stories that they lived in?
Yeah.
The church you went to, the school you went to, the area that you lived in, right? Like if you went to a school with a lot of underprivileged people, you might have a different money mindset than if you went to a private school that your parents like Waterford or something.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
And so even that is just like shaping you. But by the time you're 30, 95% of everything you do is unconscious. So it's really bringing conscious awareness to what are the words you're saying. So if you say, I have to work hard,
Yeah.
then you have a story that you need to work really hard for your money, which might not be as helpful as it can be easy and feel really good. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to put in work.
Yeah.
But the doing of it is a lot different energy than I'm going to hustle and do hard work instead of taking inspired, aligned action.
Yeah, that does make that is a big shift. So what are some other words that people say? Like, I want, I need, like, what are other words that kind of make you think like maybe you should reframe that?
Yeah, need is always coming from a place of lack, of not having it. And so if you want to manifest anything, you need to be in the vibration of having it, which is really hard when you're, and I don't even want to say it's really hard because then you're putting in that it's hard.
We take that back, universe.
It's like, it's so simple, but it's not necessarily easy or everybody would be there. Especially right now, we're in a recession. We had COVID. Like, the world itself is in an energetic feeling that is hard to attune to if you don't have awareness about it.
Yeah.
And so from everything of manifesting, though, it's you want to feel like you already have it. And I think that's where people get stuck up is the feeling part's really important. And most people aren't connected to their bodies.
Yeah.
So they don't know what they are feeling. They're very disconnected from their feelings and emotions. But also, again, it's that balance of like having the feeling and the emotion with the action and the doing and letting it be easy and effortless because you're in alignment. So having that state of flow, but then something will pop in. And especially, so this is where really getting to know yourself also matters. That's why I love human design, Enneagram, the gene keys. Like, a lot of those things will kind of tell you where your energetic shifts should be. So I'm a generator. Yeah. So I'm an emotional responder. So I am not supposed to be the one to initiate. I'm not the starter of things. Yeah. So everything that I have, that I've built, anything I started necessarily on my own didn't necessarily work out. But like, I own 4 salons in Utah, and I didn't ever want to own salons. I did hair, and
you were like, no thanks.
Became the manager of the salon, and then I saw the owner that I had become good friends with. He was taking people on a tour that were in business suits, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's selling the salon. So I reached out to him, and I was like, are you selling Image Studios? And he's like, I'm thinking of franchising them. You should be a franchiser. You should be my first franchisee. And I was like, I don't want to own a salon. I never wanted to own a salon. And then my brother-in-law called me literally like the next day and was like, do you want to buy this land in Hawaii with me? And I was like, no, I don't really want to own land in Hawaii, but I have this other opportunity that just came. Do you want to buy some salons with me? And he thought about it and did the numbers, and he was like, yeah, let's do it.
Oh my gosh.
We ended up buying 1, and then we ended up buying 4 within a year.
Wow.
And it wasn't something that I would have had as a goal. Like, I wouldn't have had on my vision board, I want to buy 4 salons by the end of the year. But it's something that came to me. But I was in that state of like, really, I was in a really good place in my career. I was making a lot of money. I had just got my first apprentice. Yeah. And I was like in that place of like opportunity and in that feeling and in that vibration. So something came to me and I responded to it.
Yeah. And I feel like that's something that people do, like on social media. People will be like, I want, 10,000 followers or whatever, which like, okay, cool. If that's your goal, that's your goal. But then they don't energetically show up as the person, as the version of themselves that would have those followers. So like, it's not a match. Like, you can't get there because you aren't showing up as like that vibrational match or whatever it is. And so I think it's true in other areas. But I love what you said about being a generator, because I'm a generator too. And I had a very similar thing. Like, I never thought I was going to be a business owner because I'd owned businesses before. And I'd been like, I don't think that's really for me. But then, like, it just kind of happened to me. Like, I was presented with an opportunity to do social media. I was asked, would you want to do this? And I was like, yeah. And then that led me to the next thing, And now I am a business owner, but it was all through responding because that's in alignment with me. And then one thing too about generators is that we are like idea machines. We're like, we have so many ideas, but we don't always want to execute them, or we don't have the tools to execute them. So we're like, here's the idea, but like, you do it. And so I've been able to use that in my own business as well to show up better for my clients. Like, I have the ideas, but like, you should still be the one that executes them.
Yeah. And I think what's really important about what you said about the person on social media who wants to have 10,000 followers, again, it's like, what's your why?
Yeah.
Do you want to just have 10,000 followers because you think it's almost like money? It's almost like the $10,000, right? Like, if you're not serving the 50 people that you have and adding value to them enough that they're wanting to share their friends or tell their friends about it, then like, it's not an energetic match for you to have 10,000 followers.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the capacity or the energy to serve 10,000 people at that level because you haven't added that value.
Yeah. That's such a good point. I love that.
Yeah. So I always think about, like, it's harder with social media nowadays because you really have to just protect your brain, and realize what are you letting in? Because everything that you let in becomes a story that you're buying into if you let it.
Yeah, like, so, and you're presented with so much, like, so much content in a day. If you're not being conscious of it, I feel like it can really mess you up. Like, subconsciously, you're not even really aware of it.
Yeah, because, I mean, we have what's called the reticular activating system, which is what we look for. So, like, if you bought a new car, so you bought a new BMW, and you're like, now I see BMWs everywhere. But before that, if you drove a Honda, you'd probably see Hondas everywhere until the thought came in, I want a BMW. I think I want a BMW. And then once the thought comes in, now you can pay attention to all the BMWs out there. They were always there. There's not more BMWs on the road, but now you're looking for it. So when you're on social media, being very intentional about, am I going on here to look for all the people who have 10,000 followers and I'm going to just make myself feel bad?
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing? Why am I not enough? What do they have that I don't have?
Yeah.
Well, they have a better mindset.
Yeah.
Like, they're not spending their time looking at other people. They're thinking, how do I serve this person? How do I serve this client? How do I add conscious content and really add value? And then the value word is there again. How do I get myself to believe that I have value? And so I'm sure you come up against this a lot. And I know my sister Darcy has a big coaching program, and a lot of people in there are afraid of social media. They're afraid to come on. Yeah. They're afraid of what to say, but it's because they're not connected to their inherent value. If they were connected to their inherent value, they just get to be themselves and share from their heart, and that's valuable. And
they struggle. I think a lot of people just struggle to value themselves enough to not care what happens on social media. Like, because these personal brands and whatever, they're sharing things that are so near and dear to them, or that they feel like an expert in, or means so much to them, that when it doesn't get 1,000 likes or something, they're like, oh, I'm not good enough. And it's like, are you really going to tie your worth to like that number? Like, come on.
Yeah. But that's where it always comes back to a worthiness thing, because once you know your inherent worth, then the root cause of all of these things, then everything is just like an added bonus, because your cup is full. Yeah. So you're not like looking to other people to fill your cup and then it can get taken away. Like, you're giving your power away, which is your energy. Because like, how much energy, if money is energy, money is frequency, is energy. Like, how much energy are you spending on those thoughts? And where could that energy be put to yourself of being the change that you want to see in the world, knowing your value, and then just showing up as yourself.
Yeah.
And then things just come to you because you're a vibrational match for that. And so if you're in lack trying to get something, you have an attachment, right? And so that attachment of the wanting keeps you from getting what's coming to you, because the wanting, and it sounds, and there's tons of stuff on Abraham and Esther Hicks and law of attraction, but I think a lot of people keep it in their head instead of embodying it in their body.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Of like being that self-worth, being that vibrational match, knowing that like good things come to me because I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. And like not freaking out when something doesn't come your way. Like I think you can get knocked down if whatever you're trying to, whatever it is, you're trying to make that money, you're trying to get those followers, whatever it is that you want, and it's not happening for you for whatever reason. Like maybe it's not your time, maybe you're not a vibrational match, like whatever it is. And then they get like so caught up in it that like they get frozen. They're like, oh, I'm stuck.
Well, they also have the expectation of when it should happen.
Yeah.
And so that also is like, you just put it out there. I mean, and even the word trying is like, try to pick up a pen.
Yeah.
Don't actually pick it up. Just try. Just try to pick up a pen. Right? You either pick it up or you don't.
That's so true.
So it's almost like, again, it's just being like, I'm adding value. I know my worth. I'm serving people. And you can feel how that sounds.
Yeah.
Versus I'm trying to get 10,000 followers so I can make $10,000. It's not happening fast enough. The universe doesn't love me. I must be manifesting wrong. My manifesting tools are broken. Why am I not manifesting enough? And like, you can feel the energy of that.
So and
I was like, is that going to be something that 10,000 people want to be attracted to?
They're like, get away from me. You're crazy. What's happening?
And 97% of all communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
So it's not even really the words that you're saying. It's the sound, the tone, the energy, the pace, the feeling that you feel when you hear the words in the way that I say it. Or even if I don't say it, I just make
a face.
Facial expressions. Like,
I feel like,
right?
That's so true. Like, I know we're talking about money and I keep talking about social media, but I feel like you can just tell people's energy on social media. Like, I can just tell when you're like desperate. I don't know. I'm like, I can feel it through the screen, whatever it is behind there. And I don't think people pay attention to that enough. They're like, I honestly think people don't realize how social media is. It's like, those are just interpersonal conversations and interactions that you're having every day. It's on a screen, but it's still just like a person and a person.
Well, it's connection. And that's really desperately what people are really wanting, is connection.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, I did have a question about money mindset, because we talked about this before off the podcast, but you were saying that like money, people don't even know why they want money. They just want it. So what about that is not good?
I mean, I would say, I try to say things aren't necessarily good or bad, but like, how does it make you feel when you believe that story?
Yeah.
That there's not enough money, or, that you have a bad money mindset. And so then there's like judgment involved and all these other things that get, and it's more, like, what's your why? Simon Sinek has that book, like, Find Your Why. And people are like, oh, find your why. But I don't know if people take the time to dive into themselves enough to know what's driving them.
Yeah.
They just, it's kind of a program that's been sold through capitalism, is if you make people feel really bad about themselves, then they'll buy your product, because then they're going to need your diet pill or your makeup or your lip plumper. Yeah.
So they can feel better.
Sleeping pillows so you don't get wrinkles, because heaven forbid women age. Like, it's what is the consciousness is shifting with your generation and younger, of not really caring that much about, like, I don't think money's the goal for a lot of these younger generation, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people who have a lot of money, it's not solved all their problems like they thought it would.
Yeah, like,
I mean, you have maybe higher quality of problems, and there's nothing wrong with money. Like, I love money. I have a really good relationship with money. I've worked on, like, I used to think money was bad, or like people who had a lot of money were not good. And then I started meeting some really good humanitarians, and then I realized money is just a tool, and I'd rather have a lot of money for a tool for good than not.
Yeah.
But I don't need it to feel like a good, worthy person. It's kind of just, why do you want the money? Like, what's underneath it? And getting really honest with yourself. Who am I without this money? If I never made this money, do I have inherent worth?
Okay.
And then if I have this money, being really specific and clear with it, what do I want to do with it? Getting an exciting vision. Like, oh, if I made $10K a month, then I could get a massage every week. I could buy my friends dinner. I could travel to Paris to, my friend's time travel workshop. Like, those things do require an energetic exchange. And so there's nothing wrong with wanting to have really nice, beautiful things.
Yeah.
I think it's just more being clear on what's the reason that you want those.
Yeah. That reminds me, I just read the book, The Psychology of Money. And in it, he talks about, like, how what wealth really is, or what having money really is like having more time. And so people with, like, tons and tons of money, but they're working like 24/7, like, they're not fulfilled in life. Like, surveys show, or studies show, they're, like, not fulfilled. But people that have, like, an income that, like, they can live on, but they have time to do things that they want to do, travel, be with their family, go to their kid's soccer game, whatever it is, like, they're generally happier even if they have less money. So I feel like that goes with what you're saying. Like, how does the money make you feel? Does it make you feel like you have more time? Or is that what you want, like, more time? Or do you just want, like, lavish things? Like, do you want to give back? Like, why do you want the money?
Yeah, and I think there's a really practical part of money too. So I just finished the book, The Energy of Money, and I really love that book as well. And I read The Psychology of Money. That's a good one. And they kind of talk about, like, your relationship with money.
Yeah. And,
like, Tony Robbins actually has a really good book, Master the Money Game. It's probably one of the best money books. All my friends who are millionaires have, like, read that book, because it's not really what you make, it's what you keep of what you make.
Yeah.
So maybe you could manifest $1 million, but if you spend $1.5 million, you're still in debt, right? And, like, one of the richest men, Sir John Templeton, was, like, a postal worker or something that made $14,000, but he saved half of his income every year, and then it built compound interest, and he had, like, $82 million when he passed away or something, because of, like, compound interest. So
what? So
I think there's really, like, there's a lot of woo-woo stuff about manifesting money.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. I love the woo. I'm always like, woo-woo. I love the woo. I love reading some tarot cards and getting my spirit guides to talk to me. And I love all of that, and I believe in all of that. And we still live in the third dimensional world where, like, you want your money if it's a tool, and if it's energy, like, how can I get this tool to make money for me?
Yeah.
And so really learning about investing and being responsible with your money, having a healthy respect of money. Like, are you living paycheck to paycheck? Are you waiting for this? Are you, buying all of this stuff because you're manifesting all this money, but then you have to keep manifesting all that money, so you're still in the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Instead of, like, looking at it like a really, like, I respect money. I know that money has, like, there's an understanding of money, and I don't want to have to worry about manifesting money all the time. And so as this money's coming in, what am I doing with this money? And how am I getting this money to make money for me? And being really smart about it, and reading books about investing, especially for young women. Like, if you invest now in your 20s, just like $400 a month versus in your 30s, it ends up like over 30 years, if you invest the same amount of time from a 20-year-old to, let's say, 50, and then a 30-year-old to 60 or whatever, it ends up being like $2 million more.
Oh my God.
That you're going to make in compound interest for that extra 10 years.
Yeah.
So starting like ASAP to just put some money aside, make it automatic. Yeah. I would say that's like, if I could give any advice, that's what I would do. Just like, go back to my 20s and freaking start investing.
Start investing now. It's hard for sure. I mean, I think it's really hard. You can make an excuse, whatever. But I also think like the economy and how people talk about the economy can have a really big impact on what you do with your money too. Like, there's a couple things I've seen a lot. I see a lot of real estate agents that are like, if you don't buy property now, you're never going to afford a house. Like, you need to buy now. Now's the time to buy. Like, blah, 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 blah. And they put out this energy of like, they try to make you feel like if you don't buy a house, you're going to like die. Like, what's going to happen to you?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's not true. You can buy a house in 10 years. I'm sure it's going to be possible. Like, the economy's always changing. But there's like that. And then there's the news that's always like the economy, the stock market, whatever. And in the psychology of money, he talks about like those things that we see on the news from whatever, not just real estate agents. Love you if you're a real estate agent. Sorry, I don't hate you. It's just a little bit extreme right now. But he's saying like it's never really as bad or as good as people make it seem. It's like a lot more neutral and a lot more like okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's like two thoughts of psychology to that. So one, during the Great Depression, there were more millionaires made than ever before in the history of the world. So that there was people who saw the opportunity of a downturn. And I know a lot of investment bankers and private equity firms right now are buying up a lot of real estate. It's true.
Can we stop, please?
You know, there's like, yeah. I mean, but it doesn't mean that like you don't have to live in that scarcity. So you can also realize that that person's intention is that they want to sell you a house. Right? And so like their why is to sell you a house, and you know they might have a point, but the news doesn't sell if it's not negative.
Oh my gosh.
That is true. People's brains. Like I haven't watched the news in I don't know how long. I mean I still like go on Reddit and like find like make myself aware of what's going on in the world because I want to be responsible.
Yeah.
But not for very long, because it's also like that, like I'm in charge of my world right now and what I'm creating and what I'm doing. And the number one thing I can do is raise my vibration, be a good person, look at my shadow, do my work. None of us are perfect.
No.
Like stuff comes up. I do things I don't want to do in the way that I don't want to do them. Like have awareness about it, accept and love myself, change it. Like that's literally the best thing you can do for the planet. And who knows? Nobody knows. Has a crystal ball. Like you are the crystal ball. You are magic. So don't give your power to the news station or to the realtor. If you want to buy a house in 10 years and not right now, you're going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
100%. You'll find a way. Will it cost more?
Maybe, but maybe you make way more.
Probably will.
Like maybe you make way more.
But who
like
knows?
maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe you can just actually do whatever you want.
But it's just probably not like one of your values right now.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't buy a house in my 20s because I value travel.
Yeah.
So I went to backpack Europe for a month by myself. I did all of these things. And then I married my husband who bought a house when he was in his 20s. And I was like, see, I didn't even need to buy a house. I just married someone who had a house.
I just got yours. Thanks.
I just manifested $1 million house. And I didn't do anything but marry the man that I loved.
Yeah, that actually is like so... Crazy. It's so good to hear that because, you know, everyone does do things so differently. And again, like you just see so much on social media of like how to do it the right way. Like everyone's trying to tell you like the right way to do something or what you should feel or what you should have or how you should be. But I think if you can like take a step back and understand that like they're doing that because there's nothing wrong with them. They're not bad people. They're just like selling their own thing to have their own livelihood. And like, you can subscribe to it if you want to, or you don't have to.
Yeah, and you can reframe the word should, because should comes from an authority telling you what to do, and people should all over themselves. And instead of saying, I should do this, if you wanted to do it, you would.
Yeah.
Like, a should is like, I should go to the gym, but I don't identify as a person who goes to the gym all the time. But when you change your identity, it's like, I'm someone who works out 5 days a week. I shouldn't go to the gym. I just go to the gym because it's what I do, because it's part of my identity.
It's like the same thing as trying. I'm like, should and trying. It's like, okay, but either you do or you don't.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
And it's okay if you don't. That's the thing. Like, what you say no to is just as important as what you say yes to.
Yeah.
And if you really wanted to buy a house right now, or if you really wanted to have it, you would find a way to do it.
Yeah. Totally.
It's just there's a story that is being bought into that you should buy a house now because you're not going to be able to buy one in 10 years. And you can just not believe that story. Like, you know what? I'm going to buy a house when I want to, when I feel ready to. And that's not this year. And maybe it will be next year. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not living that far in the future.
Yeah. I love that.
We all could get hit by a meteor tomorrow. You know, like none of us guaranteed. Right now, in this moment, in this present moment, is all that exists. It's all that's real. Even 5 minutes ago, our conversation is already a memory, and it's already made up.
Yeah.
It's in the past. Not real. In 5 minutes from now, it's not real. Right now, in this moment, this is what's real.
Yeah.
And you can decide in this moment, what do I want from a place of not my mother telling me this, or the economy telling me this, or my real estate investment friend telling me this. Like, what's true for me?
Yeah.
What do I want? And then I'm going to feel into that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it, like, using your discretion on that, like, as to what you consume. Like, choose to say is true for you.
Yeah. I mean, you let the thought come in, and then there's a part of you somewhere that believes it because of an unconscious narrative. So just being aware that, like, is this something? Ooh, that made me feel stressed.
Yeah.
I'm like feeling really stressed now that I need to do this thing. And before I had this conversation, I didn't feel that stress. Yeah. So, like, what am I choosing to believe? And then you can always ask yourself, is it real? Is it true? Is it mine? And is it now?
Yeah. Okay. I love
And when you go through that inquiry, it might not even be yours. It could be your parents told you that you needed to buy a house. We're still on the house thing, but
it's a good example. Yeah.
Because it's fresh. Or like the people I follow on Instagram are telling me I should buy a house. All these things are telling me I should do this. I should do this. And it's like, but what do I believe for me?
Yeah. And then that's also making me think of just being like, trusting your own self. Like, you know what's best for you, whatever that looks like. Like, some people are going to disagree with whatever you think is best for you. Maybe your mom, maybe your siblings, like the people on the internet, who knows? But they might be like, that was a dumb decision. Why would you do that? But like, you have to trust yourself, and you might make a decision that later on you're like, oh, I don't know why I chose that one. But it's just fine. Like, you're going to work out perfectly as it should be in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite quote from Peter Crone is, and I know I've told you this before, but I say it all the time. Everything happens the way it should happen. And how do I know? Because that's what happened.
Yeah.
And it couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't.
Oh, yes. I love that.
It's like, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to make decisions that you think are the wrong decision, but it helped you grow. We can't grow. Like, we didn't just come down here to eat vanilla cake all day. And not have any trials or tribulations. That'd be so freaking boring.
Yeah.
And so, like, you're supposed to mess up. That's how you learn. That's a baby walks and falls, and they didn't make a mistake because they fell. They're learning how to walk.
Yeah.
You're learning how to become the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
There is no time frame, and there is no getting there. It's a constant evolution for multiple lifetimes.
Yeah.
Really, like, it's just, what is the big deal if you don't have as much money as that person?
Yeah.
Like, why are you make your happiness so cheap? And just, if you focus, I promise, if you focus on your happiness and your joy and serving others from a full cup, money is just like a byproduct that comes to you. When you come from a place of service, like all the best coaches in the world, they deliver results, but they also live what they're teaching. They're not in this vibration of teaching you something that they haven't mastered themselves.
Yeah, that's so true and so important. I love that. I also had a thought about a little bit of a money thing that people, I feel like, get tripped up on with money, is that they see other people lacking. Like maybe they see people who don't have a home or are struggling to pay their rent, whatever it is. And they're like, how could I ever want more when I see all of this lack or this poverty or whatever? How do you want to make more money when there's people that can't even afford to feed themselves?
Well, the question, again, so the quality of your life equals the quality of questions that you ask yourself. So a question you could ask yourself is, how could I really help that person?
Yeah.
And the answer for me would be, if I had a lot more money, I could give to that. Like, I've been able to donate to every, like, relief that, Ukraine, Gaza, hurricane. And anytime those things happen, I just donate because I can. And it feels really good. Like, that's something I can do.
Yeah.
But there's a really big misconception in the mindset of, if I have this much money, that means they don't get to have it, like, which is not true. That's like saying, if I'm healthy, then you can't be healthy. Well, how do I be this healthy when they're sick in the hospital? It's like, well, me being healthy doesn't make them not healthy.
Yeah.
Like, me having money, because again, that's coming from a place of lack. If I have this much money, they don't get any because there's not enough for them, which is lack.
Yeah.
So coming from a place of abundance is, there's enough for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, I love the book Conversations with God. And basically, it's like the law of one. Like, we are all one. We were all part of the light. And we all came down here as different expressions, because God can't know him or herself without different expressions. And so in the eternal perspective of things, it's not bad. It's just an experience that God is having.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's a lot of karma for certain people to, like, work out. So there is money karma. There is these things. There's different lessons. Like, some people might have wanted to figure out the lesson of money.
Yeah.
So they're going to figure out that lesson. Like, you don't know. You can't know what they think.
Yeah, that's so true.
You can project onto them from your place of, like, well, I want money so bad, and they have no money, so they must have this terrible life. You don't know that. I mean,
so true.
Would you choose that? Probably not. But
yeah, like,
it doesn't.
People are happy at all different levels of income. Like, people are happy doing whatever they want to do. Like, some people want to live in the mountains, and I guess you could say they live in, like, poverty. I'm going to use that as a loose term, but, like, you could say they do, but, like, they're actually just, like, really happy, and they have a homestead, and that's what they want to do. And it's like, that's the ultimate goal. Like, are you happy? Great. That's what we want for you.
Yeah, I mean, 2/3 of the world lives on less than $1 a day.
Wow.
And the United States has the levels of happiness is the lowest. We have the highest suicide. We have the highest addiction. We have the highest of all these things. And there's all these third world countries that don't have running water, and they're happy.
Yeah.
A lot of them are very happy.
Yeah.
And so,
like, we put this weird energy on money when money's just neutral, but we put this, like, feeling on it or whatever.
Yeah, money's neutral, just like health is.
Yeah.
Right? So people who don't have good health haven't had a good relationship with health.
Yeah.
So, like, me, myself, I grew up in a family that was obese. We had a lot of addiction. We had a lot of capital T trauma.
Yeah.
So, like food and those things became my security blanket, and I had a really unhealthy relationship with food and with health.
Yeah.
And it kind of showed, right? Because, like, I'm overweight. And so, like, this year, I'm really, like, in the last 2 years, been really working on creating my own safety. So I don't need the protection of the safety, and and really deep diving into that psychology and having a healthier relationship with health. Money's the same thing. Like, what's your relationship with money? How are you respecting it? How are you treating it? Do you have a beautiful wallet that, like, you keep cash in so you can, every time you open your wallet, you have $100 bills in there so it looks beautiful and it's organized? Or is your money wadded and shoved in a purse somewhere?
Yeah, it does make a difference. I got my partner a wallet for Christmas, and like a new one, because his was like so old. And then he's like, I don't know what happened. Like, ever since Christmas, like, I've just been so abundant. I just get all this money, and money just comes to me, and I'm not even worried about it. And I was like, it's your wallet. It's your wallet. I was like, because you leveled up your wallet, and so now you have all this, like, attracting abundance.
You're like, half of that money's mine. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm like, actually, you owe me. Thanks. No, but it is true. Like, how you treat it, how you think about it, all of that. Like, you're just projecting basically whatever onto money. Money's just like, I'm here. And you're like making it good or bad.
Yeah, money is not real anyways. Like, it's really not. It's not backed by gold anymore. It's a piece of paper with a dead president on it that we all as a society have chosen to buy into and give it all this power. Yeah. So since it's not real, just, you can have some fun with it.
Yeah. That's why I love Las Vegas.
It's literally a game that you're learning how to play. But, like, yeah, like, what's your relationship when you go to spend money? Are you like, oh, I don't know if I can afford that? Or are you like, I can buy whatever I want. I can buy. Like, one thing I did a couple years ago that was really fun is I went shopping, like, to City Creek Mall, and I was just kind of like in my mind buying everything. And I was like, oh, I could buy that. I could buy that. I could buy that. Like, and actually I had enough money that I could buy that $10,000 purse or whatever. I don't value purses like that. So, but I would be like, I could buy that. I could buy that. And then I'd be like, my money looks better in the bank.
Yeah. It's so funny too. Like, I feel like if I go to the mall and I'm like stressed about money for whatever reason, then I'm like, oh, I love all these different, like, I find so many things that I like want to buy. But if I go to the mall in just like the most abundant mindset of like, I could buy literally whatever I want, I like will find nothing, because I'm like, I actually don't want or need any of this. Like, that pressure goes completely away when you're like, I have enough. It's when you show up and you're like, I don't have enough. That's when you like want. Please give me all this stuff.
Well, and then if you buy something when you don't have enough, it starts a shame cycle.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a healthy relationship. So, like, if you do buy something, like, I did buy these, like, really beautiful vintage Chanel earrings. Yeah. You know, like, I just love Coco Chanel. She's my favorite. And so I was like, I could totally buy those. I want to buy those. I bought them. And I didn't feel bad about it. Whereas I used to buy stuff that I couldn't afford. And then I'd be in a shame. It's like, oh, you shouldn't have bought that. You need to work harder now. And, like, the story, because I had an unhealthy relationship with money, would go on, that causes, like, the vibration to come down here, right? And so then there's more stress, and it just attracts like.
Yeah, that's so true. Oh, I love that. Is there anything else you feel like is important about money mindset? I mean, there's probably so many things, but anything that comes to mind?
I mean, I think mindset in general, it's kind of how you do anything is how you do everything, which is why my health is like my last piece of my medicine wheel. Like, I've really worked a lot on my mind with money and with like coaching and with worthiness, and I've really worked on my heart of loving and my spirit, and now it's kind of like my body. Like, it's my last quadrant that I'm like, okay, like, I want to really have this relationship be better and be embodied and all of these things. So with money, I think if you just bring awareness to, like, what you're thinking when you spend money and work on reframing that or changing that, a fun exercise to do is to, like, mentally spend like $20,000 every day or $10,000 every day. Like, I did this for like a couple months. It was so fun.
I was like, I couldn't even imagine.
Because you're like, you run out of things. I'm like, oh, I'm going to buy a villa in France, so I'm going to save up this many weeks to buy this. And then, that many weeks, I was like, going towards my villa in France. Then I was like, oh, I'm going to buy this. Okay. And then after a while, you're just like, what else do I need?
You're like, what else could I want? Like, I can't even think.
Yeah, I mean, but then it gets really fun because then you find that it will come to a place of service.
Yeah.
So, we went to like business mastery. Me and Darcy went to business mastery, and they did this exercise of like, how would you spend all of this money? And I visualized some really fun things that I'm excited to manifest of like, I want to go to a college on book day when all these college students are buying their books and just pay for everybody's books.
Oh my gosh, that would be so cool.
And just be like, hey, everybody, all your books are on me. Like, I totally am going to do that. And I want to like just go to a grocery store and just be like, buy everybody's groceries.
Yeah.
Just be like, hey, I'm buying y'all groceries.
Yeah.
And, I love those Instagram posts where they pick up some of the sweet guys from Home Depot and like take them to Disneyland or something.
Yeah.
And they pay them for a full day's wage and they do all of this. Like, there comes a point where you're like, you don't need money for yourself. Yeah. It's really in relationship with others of like, and that's just that joy and that vibration of like giving. The secret of living is giving and like giving to other people and being able to like buy your parents a house or like buy this or buy this. Like,
yeah,
there comes a point where you don't need any of it for yourself. It's really about being in service of others.
Yeah.
And that's really I think the important energy to try to be in when you're thinking about money is like, if you find yourself in lack and you're finding yourself stressed that you're not manifesting that 10K and you find yourself, oh, it's because I'm not good enough. Like, pay attention to those things and just understand that you're in choice. That's a story.
Yeah.
You're telling, but you can change the story and start telling yourself another story. And it's going to take a little time, but eventually this other story is like, money just flows in through me. My hand's always open. Like they say that in the book, The Energy of Money, that like, if you hold things with a tight fist, it can't come in.
Yeah.
It can't go out, but it can't come in either.
Yeah.
So like, you really just want to be like, it's coming in and it's going out. While setting up your 401k and your real estate investments and like being smart about it, but also being like, money is energy.
But like the more you can't set up your 401k if you're like this.
Yeah.
So it's like the first step is like being open to it. And then
and my husband and I had kind of like a downturn of events where we were making like more money than we ever had made in our life. Yeah. And then a lot of stuff happened that got us to like we were more broke than we were in our 20s. But we had said if we got this like $15,000 check that we were planning on getting, that we were going to donate 10% of it to some charity. Yeah. My husband loves animals, so we're like, hey, we're going to do some to the animal shelter, some to the food bank. And then a lot of this stuff happened, and we were like, oh. But that's like when you get tested is, if you can't give $1 out of 100, you're never going to give thousands out of 1 million.
Yeah, it's like a test of like, what do you do?
No, this is what we said we're going to do, and we're going to do that. And we did. And then all this other stuff started coming in, just like effortlessly. Yeah. It was like the trust of, no, this is, we know that we're abundant, money's coming into us. Like this is a commitment we both made and we're going to honor it. And we did. And it was like, as soon as we did it, we were like, oh, we're totally
because
fine.
Like then you've trusted yourself and then you allow that like good things to happen to you because you trust yourself instead of going into like a shame cycle of being like, oh, we couldn't donate that because of whatever happened. Like that, imagine if you had taken like that road, then you wouldn't have been open to anything. Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Okay, one last question for you. And I know this is going to be good because I know you, but what's one piece of advice you wish you could give your younger self?
My younger self, I would just tell her, just make all the mistakes and just have fun doing it. Just like be in your 20s, make mistakes, live and learn, and just trust that you're still inherently worthy. Yeah. Like my whole 20s was spent hating myself. And like if I could go back to my 20-year-old self and really show her worth and like just show her how she's so amazing without needing to do or be anything just because she was born. Yeah. That's what I would tell them.
Oh, I love that so much. Like, it almost made me tear up because it's like, I am in my 20s. I'm 26. And you can just be like, it feels so hard sometimes to reach your goals or do all this stuff. And people are like, your 20s are your foundation. Like, don't F it up. And it's like, actually, the mistakes are going to happen whether you want them to or not. So, like, just let it go. And, like, you're still worthy even if you make a mistake or even if you have to start over. And that's a big lesson.
Well, then you don't get into a midlife crisis, which is if you don't do all this stuff in your 20s, you're in your 40s, and then you're making way bigger mistakes, and you've got kids that are, like, being subjected to you not being able to be in your 20s making mistakes.
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like I really was tested on that when I got divorced because I was like, oops, big mistake you made. Like, how dare you make this mistake? But it was like, actually...
Imagine if you were still married to him.
Yeah, and it's like, actually, like, it worked out better than, like, my life is better than I could have imagined. Like, in that place where I thought, like, it couldn't get worse than this. I'm like, yeah, this is really bad. And I also, at that time, couldn't imagine a life that was good. Like, you know, I was so like, oh, this is like a bummer. I'm just going to do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, now it's so much better than I could have imagined. So we had to make the mistake.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
And maybe it wasn't even a mistake. It was just a relationship that had an expiration date.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that's really what it felt like. It's like, this isn't going anywhere. We're moving on. But yeah, I love that so much. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I'm so excited.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Goodbye.